Bastards. Today, I want to talk about the most likely scenarios or disasters that could happen. Um, well, there are the obvious ones, but I will name also specific ones. Just a list of things that might happen in the future in Belgium, here, or somewhere else in the world. Some of the scenarios will be very specific to a certain area, others will be global, but this is the list I made in my book, the Belgian Prepper Survival Handbook. So I will read the list from here. What's the first thing? Climate change. Yes, you will hear some people will maybe be still be skeptical, but if you notice all the patterns in the world, you will see that things like droughts, extreme winters, extreme storms, more extreme rainfalls that are destroying harvests, infrastructure. Um, so that can be very disastrous, not only to your country but all around the world. Second, the loss of how would you say that word, of agricultural ground. Um, well, imagine the scale of which we produce food and farmlands. Well, it took millions of years for that fertile ground to form on the surface of the earth. At the rate we are farming and using all that land, we are taking all the nutrients out of it. Well, yeah, we can prolong it by using things like um, what's the English word? Fertilizers and such, but it will only go so far. There is at this day starting to get a lot of problems with ground that is not really fertile. When you actually look at a global map, there are only certain places where great farm ground can be used. I would advise to look it up. It's kind of horrendous to see how much useful land that is actually useful for farming. So, and the next is the this is very specific for Belgium. The drinkable water, like in the ground. Uh, yeah, we live. Cities are spreading. Towns are getting more. Uh, are also spreading and getting more like a city. We use more water than we used to be, especially on industrial scale, farming, just for everyday usage. And think of the ways we use water in for recreational ways, like pools, water games, and even just washing your car every week. I don't know who does that. Not certainly me. I can assure you that. But these are all factors that can deplete the water sources, especially of groundwater. When those are depleted, it will take around 60 years till rainwater goes into the ground and naturally come up in wells. And that's for drinkable water. Don't forget, we got just normal water that we have in the ground from the rain. Those are, at least here in Belgium, every year less and less. Sometimes there is a code yellow or a code orange that will um, that authorities say that civilians cannot use that much water for unnecessary things. It happens every year since the last decade, so I would advise to find water sources that you can store at your own location, your home, some way that you can ride out the drought, which sounds like a good catchphrase now that I think of it. So, um, next thing is the maritime wildlife. What do I mean by that? um, the how do you say this, when we are starting to pollute the ocean with garbage, the plastic, which will turn into microplastics, which also fucks up a lot of the fishes and the maritime plants. Imagine, and not to forget the fishing industry. We got bigger, more efficient boats that can fisher boats that can just swipe across certain oceans, parts of the oceans, and scoop all these fishes, disturb their natural habitat, and make it hard that the fish population can regrow. Especially when the world population is growing and growing, we're gonna fish more and more. So overfishing will be a great problem in the future, unless we do something about it. But I don't think that the money, the jobs, and the politicians will not make sure that we are going to do something sustainable. So next is the monoculture in agricultural use. Um, what does this mean? Um, to make more profit, a farmer can. It's more profitable to grow something of a few crops instead of a lot of uh, other like dozens of different plants. Do not have the same profit as monoculture, which is like planting one or two sort of crops. Um, this can be a problem because I'll give you an example. The banana, the modern banana, did not exist uh, 50 years ago. The banana that we used to use 50 years ago died out. Why? Because of a fungus that went all over all the plantations. So they had to choose for another form that was resistant to the fungus, but at this moment as we speak, the fungus is now taking the current banana, which is one of the few that are used. There's not a lot of biodiversity. So that can be a problem if we talking about other crops and vegetables and oh, got a sneeze. So what's the next thing? The exhaustion of oil wells. We are much too much dependent on oil, natural gas, and there's only so much of it in the earth. So when that runs out or runs less, people, countries will start to wage war over it. Um, there are a lot of places that are protected for environmental ways, like the North Pole and other places in Europe, in America, South America. But uh, when shit will hit the fan, uh, war will be waged over those sources. So that is a thing I foreseen. And don't forget the revolution into energy, when people have to think of other ways to make energy, like electricity, heat. Where they get it? And when the wells are dry, then and we haven't done anything about about green energy or infrastructure, that will become a huge problem. So next, ah, like you can everyone now know, pandemics. We live in a more connected world. We travel more. We are more connected. There are open borders. The people can travel more, get more in contact with other culture. So it's natural that we get more diseases popping up. The luck we have now is we have the infrastructure, certain organizations, and the knowledge, average knowledge of the every average person, to recognize new sickness, what we can do about it. Mostly on a few people after. So we are more prone to new diseases, especially superbugs, which are diseases that are resistant to the current antibiotics and other treatment of diseases, and sometimes even vaccines, perhaps. So that can become a huge problem in the future. It will happen, there is no doubt about it. It's every 100 year there is a great pandemic, and we are in the current one. We are still developing, so watch out for pandemics and epidemics, which can be local. Next, um, ah, the long-term effects of certain materials or products. We live in a society which use a lot of building materials, a lot of plastic, a lot of medicine, a lot of fabrics that are in chemicals. It's very hard to predict to that to see what will do something over many generations. We only discovered a few decennia ago that asbest is very fucks up your lungs, and yet it was used in thousands of years, and the last few 100 years it was used in a lot of buildings, which fucked up a lot of people. So imagine something innocent like the fabric of my jacket. Perhaps it's been worked on with some chemicals to keep it longer against smells or against rain. Perhaps these I will take these chemicals into my body, change my DNA, or I'll take it to my next to my children, and they pass it on, which can be which can cause illness or long-term disorders and effects in the gene line. So that's possibly something that we can expect in the future. Uh, Next, um, oh, next thing about those pollution is the long-term effects like birth defects, less, how do you say the word? Less semen production, like the quality goes less. We already have a problem in Europe alone, which the quality of the sperm goes down. It's not only actually in Europe; it's actually all around the world where people start to see a decline in the quality of sperm, which makes it harder to make children. And if you see the movie Children of Men, that can be a very, very big problem. So, next, um, the conjuncture cyclices and inflations, which leads to economical crises. So, we economical crises happens a lot. It happens every 50 or 100 years. Last decennia, it happens a lot more. Why? We are getting more technological. The markets are more connected. Globalization, uh, automatization, which can provide much goods, but also more unemployment for the workers, and that will eventually become to the next problem, is which is a class diversion. When the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, there is the middle class are starting to disappear on in a lot of places. You can see it especially in America. Um, there will be like it's amazing that the systems allow to people exist to let people exist like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg. We have this we have this immense wealth. Think about this: eight persons have the same wealth as 50% of the world population. Imagine that. That will be a very large problem in the future, especially when they have the mentality like the robber barons have during the industrial revolutions, where I don't know which one which said it, but the line that robber baron said was, "I can hire the half of the workers to fight against the other half," which is a terrible mentality if you are the workers of the of the other half that gets not well paid. So that's another problem. We'll go to the next. Uh, ah, the rise of new political and religious groups or organizations. Imagine a group that will rise and that will cause a new wave idea plans in the world. A lot of people will follow it. It may be good, it may be bad, but even people with good intentions can do bad things. Imagine a line that Canadian prepper once said, which I very liked: the path to to heaven is often paved with good in the path to hell is often paved with good intentions. Imagine World War II. Uh, Germany was devastated, and yet the Third Reich, the Nazis, came to power and caused a world war. The idea of socialism and communism have caused a lot of civil wars, and the rise of the Soviet Union, which caused also a lot of suffering. In China, the rise with Mao Zedong caused a lot of suffering, uh, which was a high price to pay to grow for the people who survived. So just think about these concepts, these ideas, and think about also the good sides and the bad sides, and see what would you do in that situation. Next, um, the use of CBRN, uh, chemical, nuclear, biological, and radiological weapons, as well as used by terrorists and by governments. We have only used two atomic bombs in real warfare. So imagine all the things I named before will make people so desperate they will use and make the same mistake as we did in the past by using nuclear weapons against civilian targets or military targets. People often forget the past and they will make the same mistake, which is a bad thing, which is something you need to consider. Even if you think that will never happen, always take it in consideration. So, next, uh, volcanoes. A big volcano can fuck up a lot of things in a lot of area for the air travel, economics, the people that live there. But imagine a super volcano which has enough power to dim the light, to dim the lights by spewing ash and smoke into the atmosphere, which blocks the sun. Plants will die off, cattle and farm animals die off, and regular animals, and people are dependent on those for the food. And when the food goes down, people will go nuts. Hunger drives people crazy. So imagine that could happen sometime in the future. Next, projects to help against climate change can backfire. When, like, think of the movie Snowpiercer. They tried to, like I said with the volcano, try to block the sun against global warming. But what happened? The In the movie, the world started to get so cold, everything froze. So imagine, like I said, with the good intentions, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. If we try to fix something, we can fuck it up even more. Just, I don't say it always happens. It's just a possibility to take in consideration. Um, the next things are earthquakes. In big earthquakes, like in California, they're still waiting for the big one that can happen any moment and will be very devastating. Which also can lead to tsunamis, especially in the Pacific Ocean, or on other places on the world where it can and go hand in hand. Volcanoes, earthquakes, tsunamis. It can fuck up a lot of things. The rising of seawater. That is another problem. And a lot of ice is breaking, melting, glaciers, permafrost, uh, uh, ice plateaus from the south and the North Pole breaking off, go into the ocean and melt. So rising of seawater can drown, can put a lot of coastal cities and cities to rivers underwater, um, which is a very bad thing if you can imagine. Next thing, World War Three. Uh, I don't see this likely happen, but like I said, it's always possible. It can be a war without nuclear weapons, just conventional warfare, but if we use nuclear weapons, like Einstein once said, I don't know with which weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. Keep that in mind when you think about World War III. Let's hope it never happens. Next, automatization and the rise of artificial intelligence. Imagine a group, a country, or even an organization that has the power of artificial intelligence. I mean, real AI. Those people will have so much power because um, mind goes over brawn. If you have knowledge, if you can calculate, make the best technology, those are the ones who will conquer others. Think of the Spaniards who conquered the Incas with their superior technologies at the time. Um, that's Imagine that with a country or terrorist organization or just a group of people that decide to abuse those technologies to do his fellow men harm or take over. So next, genetic manipulation. What do I mean by that? I'm talking about chimeras, plants, animals, bacteria, other pathogens, viruses that are genetically modified to conquer the biodiversity. Imagine, let me say, a weed like you find, like a nettle that you find in your yard. Imagine if it's so modified, it will survive any circumstance, winter, produce faster, and it will take over all the other plants. Imagine when that happens. It's the best example is Australia, where there are not a lot of predators, and when rabbits, frogs, camels, and emus were introduced in that environment, they grow, the population grow, and there were a lot of problems for the farmers and for the wildlife around them because they couldn't be stopped with their spread. So imagine that in everything: animals, pathogens, viruses. That will be a great mess. Next, a solar flare. Uh, let's imagine a solar flare that can fuck some things up, like it happened in Canada, in America, where some blackouts happened. But imagine a charactering event that will happen every 50, between 50 and 100 years. Um, that's a huge solar flare. And in the time that it happened in 1860, I think, all the cables of telegraph poles, they sparked, started fires, electrocuted people, great lights went over the earth. There was not a lot of technology. Now everything is dependent on technology. So when a solar flare of that magnitude of a charactering event happens, the 1/4 of the Earth that will get hit will be totally fucked. So that's something else to look forward to in a sarcastic way. Uh, Next, I am a great cyber attack or EMP, something that will destroy the technological dependency infrastructure that we depend on. Imagine a computer virus. Imagine a pandemic, but with a computer virus. That's a good way to explain this. Imagine somebody makes on a computer a virus that will go silent, spread, infects other computers all over the world, and then after so much, maybe let's say 19 days, it will get active, and it will have affected millions and millions of computers. and then it all shuts down. That will be a horrible situation. I think it was a situation in that movie with Bruce Willis. I don't know what they called the event, but it was in that movie an idea. So imagine that. We already saw what a few hackers can do with a colonial pipe, which set the whole East Coast without gasoline because they ransomware the computers that's pumped all the gas to the east in that one line. Um, Next, um, an asteroid or a comet, something big falling from the sky, that will be devastated. As many people will know, they wiped out. They think the dinosaurs were wiped out by a giant asteroid. It impacted, and just like a supervolcano, all the debris, all the smoke, all the ashes went up, blocked the sun for a long time. Plants died, pla- plant eating dinosaurs died, and then the flesh eating dinosaurs died. Um, so imagine that that could happen. At the moment that I'm recording, they sent something, a rocket or something, to test out a way to push a comet or an asteroid out of the way. Something that NASA is doing. They just say it's just a test, so let's hope we never have to use something like that. Uh, oh, not to imagine the when it lands in the ocean, the tsunami. Oh, it will be a huge wave. Not something even not the best surfer will like. So I think those are the the most likely scenarios that will someday happen. Maybe perhaps in the 10 years, some some in a few years, some in a century. Sometime some will be maybe happening over 10,000 or 1 million years. Who knows? But these are things that will have happened and probably will happen again. So the last thing we have to be careful about is the overpopulation of the species Homo sapiens, us, because the you can put it any way you want. There are too many people on the planet. We're still growing, and we're likely not to give that up. China had a one child policy, but humans are animals, and animals and organisms want to reproduce. So that will be very hard to accomplish without a dictatorial way of living. Unless, uh, yeah, it's like an insect, like an ant hill in your backyard. And if there are too many ants, they will destroy their own habitat, depleted of food and perhaps even water, and they will die off because they fucked up their environment. There is a certain civilization, the Indus Valley, where they think this has happened before. It was like 6,000 years ago, I think, or maybe even more. It was one of the first all the oldest civilizations. They built cities, but the problem was they built their cities so big they destroyed everything around them of the environment. Water dried up because it couldn't circulate in the ground anymore. Um, Lead from buildings fucked up the environment of the paintings and stuff. Trees were wiped out because they used it too much. Oh, actually, Eastern Island is one of those examples. They think that local people tribes used so much wood that they destroyed themselves because they destroyed all the wood for statues or other things, and an island is as an infinite source. So they fucked themselves over in that way. We are doing the same thing. Like I said before, with the ground we are depleting, our water we are depleting, our natural sources like oil, minerals, earths, we are all using it up. And why? Because of the economy. Economy is a motor. If you want the motor to keep going on, you have to feed it some source of fuel. So without fuel, the motor will stop, and then if you stop, progress is movement. If you cannot move, there will be no progress. You have to stand, and you will use up everything in your surrounding. So that's my thought about the most likely scenarios that will happen in the direct future, as in the long term future. I'm talking millions of years, thousands, 10,000s of years. So I hope this was gave you some a peace of mind, gave you some ideas. Uh, my last thing I want to say is, don't worry, don't be afraid, live life, live frugal, be good to others, and just don't waste too much. Just take what you need and not more. That's the last thing I want to give with this video. Thank you for watching. Bye. See you in the next video.